Thank you. I've now got my terminology hat on, and I'm going to introduce you to Arches Lingo. So, a bit of background. Every instance we've seen so far comes with something called the reference data manager, and that allows you to create word lists, basically, so that those resource models, you can have a drop down and you can select a standardized vocabulary. And those reference data module is in the back end. It's you can import SCOS vocabularies. You can create vocabularies from scratch. But most people don't care about word lists. Most people don't care about terminologies, where they come from. They just want to be able to use them. In version 8 and from version 8, Arches will ship with something called the controlled list manager, which is a simpler way of using those vocabularies. And you don't need to be a vocabulary management specialist like I am. You don't. I build thesauri for a living. That's my job. I used the RDM. I made sure that instances of our vocabularies are available for use in those RDMs in other instances. So, Stefania mentioned the fish vocabularies. They're like the art and architecture thesaurus, which is Getty Getty vocab program manage, but they're more Anglo-centric. They're more focused on archaeology and architecture in the UK. And until now, they are the sort of like we've always been the bridesmaid, never the bride. But now we're the bride because we've got our own tool. I will whiz through some of these because you don't really need to know what Arches is, because we talked about that earlier. And as you can see, bridesmaid. And yet without this, none of this works. So the control vocabularies underpin all of those resource models, as I say. Without those control vocabularies, you may as well just use the internet, stick a Google box on it and go, that's it, find your data. So how Lingo fits into the Arches platform ecosystem. It's a specialized application within the Arches ecosystem, but it's designed specifically for managing authority data and vocabularies, particularly polyhierarchical thesauri. It's built on core Arches core. So that's that's the bit that Jack was showing, without any of the resource models, without any of the packages, the bit that comes out of the box. It supports semantic standards. Again, it's underpinned by the CDOC CRM, but the ontology has been extended to include linked art plus, and that's to allow us to add bits of information to vocabularies that the CRM doesn't have nodes or doesn't have classes or entities for. It's built in collaboration with knowledge organization specialists, buyers, forers, and it's modular integration. Its user interface, it's been specifically designed for source management, and there's an open development and contribution. So it combines Arches data management with improved vocabulary control. It's designed, as I said, specifically for people like me to use. And Lingo vocabularies will then be seen as the source of truth. So the idea is that Lingo will sit as a centralized hub of vocabularies, and then you can plug in or you can talk to as many Arches instances as you like, and they can use those centralized vocabularies. So you, as an Arches user, don't need to worry about the vocabularies. You would just subscribe to a Lingo service, a free subscription, no costs involved. But you would say, okay, well, I want to use the fish vocabulary, so I'll go to the fish Lingo instance, or I want to use the AAT vocabulary, so I'll go to that particular one. We don't envisage there being a massive need for instances of Lingo. It's not everybody who uses Arches won't need their own Lingo instance. That's not to say you couldn't have your own Lingo instance if you so wished. So in Historic England, for example, we have, as well as the Greater London Historic Environment Record, we have the National Record of the Historic Environment, which is the called Warden. And then we have something called Mariner, which is the National Marine Historic Environment Record. And those three instances pretty much use the same vocabularies for a lot of their work. And as the person who's in charge of those vocabularies, that means I've got to go in and change those vocabularies in 3 separate instances, or update 3 separate instances of those vocabularies. What I want to do is I want to come into Lingo, do it once, and then let Lingo talk to those vocabularies and make those updates. So that's an instance where my instance of Lingo could just be in-house. And as I say, it integrates with this new thing called the controlled list manager until everyone's moved over to version 8 and is happy with it. The reference data manager and controlled list manager will sit side by side until later sort of version release. I don't know when that will be, but at some point the RDM will be switched off. And yes, so it integrates with other applications, Arches for HR, Arches for Science, and Arches for Rascals, which is research, reference and sample collections, which is the new kid on the block in the Arches world. So it supports non-Arches systems as well. So there's nothing to say that you have to use an Arches system. You could subscribe through an API to Lingo, and you can have an Oracle database or an Access database or whatever. But you could set that up. Multiple export formats, multiple import formats. Actually, we've already mentioned multilingual and multi-script support. This is something new for us. As I say, our vocabs are very Anglo-centric, which tends to mean that they're mainly in English, although some of them have been translated into Welsh and Scots Gaelic. But we're now moving into true multilinguality. And by opening our instance of Lingo, for example, if we sort of said to the Arcadia projects, give us your vocabularies, come and build your vocabularies in our instance of Lingo, we'd be able to then map the terminologies in Arabic and all these wonderful languages that have been we've seen to use, and add those to our labels for house, so that you can then, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. And we're building fair data. So because we're fully describing the data, it means that data is findable. By extending to other languages and using the various protocols, it's accessible. We've got interoperability through domain-specific ontologies, and it's ultimately reusable data. We want people to use our data. We don't want people to reinvent the wheel. There is nothing more resource-intensive than creating vocabularies from scratch. It takes ages. You never finish. Not one single vocabulary we have is comprehensive. So please don't come and talk to us. Let's do this together. Let us take the burden off your shoulders, as it were. So Arches and control vocabularies. Here we see an Arches instance. This is Greater London, as you can see by the big map that looks like Greater London. And Stuart has just typed into this very where's the ready thing? Oh, that one. Yeah, the one that's actually red. Yeah. As you see, this is a Google type search box. This is the bog standard search. And Stuart has typed the words public house. So that's just the string public house. And he's found that in Greater London, he has 2,167 records which have the words public house in them. But as you can see, Parliament Square, a late medieval building, is nothing to do with being a pub, and neither is the Marx Memorial Library. So we know that we've got a concept for public house, and it sits in the licensed premises hierarchy, and it's got a child of beer garden. So we can say, okay, well, let's have a look and see if we've got a concept. Oh yes, look, we've got concepts here for public house. So let's redo our search using the concept. And then we can see that we've got 891 pubs in London. And these are actually pubs. Great, fantastic. So we're now getting more correct, shall we say, records, because we know that these have been indexed with that term. So a human being has gone along and said, yes, this building is pub. So I'm going to label it with public house. Beer gardens. Now, you'd think there'd be more beer gardens in London than just the one. And I know there must be, because I've drunk in more than one beer garden in London. So this is just a lack of indexing on the part of the London record. But again, it shows us that by using the actual the actual concept of beer garden, we get to, a specific one specific record. So this is what Lingo would look like if you were an editor. So you'd come in and you'd see all of the schemes that are available to you, including the Getty AAT, should you so wish, and then these lovely things here. And then you can add a new scheme if you wanted to. Or you could import a scheme from elsewhere. So you could say, oh, I like that scheme over there. I'll import that into my instance of Lingo. Now, that then becomes your problem normally. As you can see, this is my favorite thesaurus in the whole history of thesauri. This is thesaurus of monument types, which is a lovely thing. 7,000 concepts from Abbey to zoological gardens and everything in between. And here we can see this is the concept of public house. So this is all the information that we have about public house, and here's the hierarchy. So we can look down the hierarchy and we say, right, in the thesaurus of monument types, there are these top classes. Under the recreational, we've got artist studio, then we've got music and speech, and then eating and drinking establishments. And under eating and drinking establishments, we have licensed premises, gym palace, bar, wine bar, public house. So we've got the preferred label, public house. We've got alternative labels of pub, tavern, roadhouse. We've got a definition of what we mean by a public house. And then we can see that public house sits in the recreational hierarchy, the commercial hierarchy, and under another, it's obviously got multiple parents under these two hierarchies. At the moment, there's no associated concepts, there's no images, but we're going to change all that. So this is this expands and collapses, so you can see where you are in the hierarchy with any concept. You'll notice that there's an identifier there, and that's a user-friendly identifier. Arches core, Arches ships with not very user-friendly 16-digit UUIDs. So we've said, oh, can we have nice numbering? So we've got nice numbering. We haven't yet assigned the URI to this because this is a test, but that will have a URI assigned when we mint it. And you'll see that the life cycle here this is a draft. So this is not yet published. So I can go in and make multiple changes to this. Don't have to worry about it. As soon as it's published, then that means it could be used by somebody. That means that URI is out there in the world and I can't delete it. I can make changes to it, but I can't delete it. The thing about URIs is we want them to be as persistent as possible. Accessibility is a big thing at the moment. So we want to start translating our concepts. So this is the Chinese and Arabic translation of public house. So you can see I've gone in and I've typed in public house in Arabic. No records. Well, why is that? That's not acceptable because I know I've got 891 public houses in London. So what I'll do is I'll come in and I'll add the Arabic label and I'll add the Chinese label. And as you'll see, these aren't alternative labels. These are preferred labels. So this is the preferred label in Arabic. So if I switch this entire UI to Arabic, and we've seen that we can do that, we can change the UI to a different country. Not only would it flip right to left, but it would also, all of these labels would be in Arabic once we've translated it all, of course. We haven't done that yet. Similar with Chinese. So all of a sudden, someone, anyone can potentially come in now and search lingo using their own language and still find records in Greater London for public houses. Why are you not moving forward? There you go. So this is another part. This is the internal search within Lingo. This is the bit that I'll be using to search. So I'm looking for things with public in, and as you can see, all of these things return public. Baths has a child as an alternative label of public baths. That's why that's there. It's why that's rocked up. But you'll see this little breadcrumb trail as well. Shows me what the thesaurus is, what the class is, and the lineage of that concept within the hierarchy. And that's really useful because in Lingo, I've got mortar as a material. I've got mortar as a weapon. I've got mortar as a thing that you grind with a pestle. it's the same label used for multiple concepts. So I came here and there'd be three mortars, like, oh, which one do I want to do? So having that little breadcrumb trail there allows me to go, that's the one I want. That's the public convenience I need. So I've selected public house. Yeah, I can add new schemes. So this is where I come in and start my new scheme. I can add new concepts, and we've kind of seen that, you know, I'm going to add something under public house. Phil's public house is, you know, a new type of public house. Great, wonderful. And that goes straight into the hierarchy then. We'll see beer. Here's beer garden again, just showing you again interoperability. So this is about sharing the love between vocabularies. So at the moment, we've got this very boring, very plain text thing, which is really important from a thesaurus management point of view. But this is a bit of a game changer. We've never really been able to add images to our vocabularies before. So if you want to know what a claw beaker looks like, or claw beaker is, you know, now you can see an image of a claw beaker. You don't have to guess, oh, it's obviously a beaker with claws, maybe, or a mortar. You know, yeah. If you see a mortar that's a grinding thing, and you know, there it is with a pestle, as opposed to a mortar with a bomb in it. So that's something new, and you can have multiple images. You can add 3D models if you wanted to, if you really wanted to go to town on that. And yeah, there's a IIIF thing widget for Arches as well. But we know that the Getty Art and Architecture Thesaurus exists. It's this fantastic resource developed by the Getty Vocab program, and they have a concept of pubs. So they've gone pubs as that's the preferred label for their concept. And I'm like, okay, well, if someone's interested in finding pubs and they're using the AAT, wouldn't it be useful for me to say that I have public house? And it's an exact match to this Getty concept, which is pubs. So we're building networks of knowledge now. We're now being able to say, my vocabulary is related to your vocabulary in this way. Isn't that wonderful? They need to then go into their vocabulary and put that it's related, you know, an exact match to mine. So I need to have a word with the Getty Vocab program, because this is not a one-way relationship. It should be an equal partnership. But yeah, so that's why we've added this in. Associated concepts are concepts that are related to pubs, but are within the same vocabulary. So matched concepts are between vocabularies. This is within vocabulary. And this conforms to the ISO 25964, which is the international standard for monolingual and multilingual thesauri. So now we've got public house. Look at that, beautiful. There it is. We've got the alternative labels in English and the preferred label in English. We've got the alternative label in Arabic and the preferred label in Arabic, and the same for the Chinese. And now I want to export this. So I can go to my little export and say, right, okay, I'm going to make this available as a file so that Stefania can now have this wonderful thesaurus that I've spent all this time. She doesn't need to subscribe to Lingo. She can just phone me up and say, Phil, can I have the RDF version of that document so I can load it into my Arches instance or my Access database or my Oracle database or whatever. And you'll see that we've got, at the moment, we've got 4 formats. We've not finalized on how many formats there'll be, but at least it will be CSV, SCOS, RDF, and JSON LD. And here we can say, just give me the one concept. Don't care about anything else. I'm only interested in pubs. Or you can say, give me the concept in children. And so if you wanted the entire thesaurus, you just go straight to the top and just say, concept in children, bang, job done. Similarly, I can import an entire new vocabulary in if I want. At the moment, SCOS is the simplest way of doing this. And if I've already got a SCOS file in and someone's updated it and they let me know that they've updated it, I can import that in and I can overwrite the current version that I have, or I can duplicate it. Now I'm trying to work out what this slide's for, other than showing me pub yet again. And I had no notes because I don't do notes like a silly person. So yeah, just to recap, Lingo enhances Arches with robust vocabulary control, It supports lifecycle management, multilingual vocabularies, FAIR principles. The controllable list manager complements Lingo for structured list creation. And at the moment, it just does concepts. But we know that authority data is important to people, and in the archaeological heritage world, those vocabularies tend to be people, periods, and places. So imagine, if you will, having a link to VIAF or another ULAN, which is the Getty Union list of artists' names. I've got architects in my database, and wouldn't it be great if instead of every time someone can't find George Gilbert Scott, they just add George Scott or George G. Scott? Wouldn't it be great if there was just one George Gilbert Scott and they use that URI? Similarly for periods, we have had a discussion this morning. Where you are is when you are. Actually, Iron Age Britain is very different to Iron Age France is different to Iron Age Denmark. So yeah, actually having a controlled vocabulary of periods it works. It works if you're in a single place and everyone agrees that there is only the Stone Age, the three age system, and then a few post-Roman periods. But what you actually want to be able to say is, I've got this period, and it has an earliest start date, and it has a latest end date, and it has a latest start date and an earliest end date, and it has a geometry, and it's relevant for this particular place over this particular time. And then all of a sudden you can then start linking those periods to places and linking those periods to concepts and people. And it's not just oh look, I've got a period drop down in my thing anymore. Yes, it is a period drop down. Yes, you'll still see Roman, but when you're selecting that label to go against the record, what you're actually selecting is that geometry, is that earliest start date, is that latest end date, is all of the knowledge that you know about that particular period. So yeah, we're not yet there, but that's the plan, is that phase 2 will be extended to other authority data types. And timescale wise, the beta is already out there, but it's only really accessible to people like me who care about these things. But version 1 is launching in, I want to say March, April, around that time next year. This has been a long time coming. I gave a talk with Rebecca Jones of the Royal Commission for the Ancient Historical Monuments of Scotland, as it was then, the day after 9/11. That's how long ago we've been talking about having this tool to work with. Vocabulary management tools, standalone tools, are notoriously expensive. You can pay 5 figures a year just to license some software that allows you to build this vocabulary. So we're getting that, plus we can add images, because a lot of those, you pay those prices and all you get is, yep, you can create a thesaurus, yep, you can create word lists. Oh, you want whistles and bells? Yeah, that'll be another 10 grand, please. So this is, it's taken a lot of time, and it's taken a hell of a lot of money to develop this, but we think it's going to be an absolute game changer. And also, as I say, it means that you don't even need to worry about vocabularies if you don't want to. If you want to worry about them, great, come join the party. But if you want to just subscribe to a Lingo service, or, create a Lingo service between yourselves and use that, absolutely fantastic. The idea of there will be a fish lingo, as it were, Forum on Information Standards and Heritage, which means that myself and colleagues in Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland will be able to log on and create our vocabularies, bring those vocabularies together, because we can now map between them. So we can say, actually, you know what, let's take all of these things and create a new thing over here. And yeah, Stefania can say, we'd like to put our vocabularies into your instance of Lingo, Phil. And I go, great, excellent. There you go. There's your login. You're responsible for that now. But I'm going to start taking your labels and adding them to my vocab as well, so that we're getting that, that sharing that knowledge. And it means that, yeah, it's not just 2 people sat in a room going tap, 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 as the benevolent dictators that we are when it comes to making vocabs available. You know, we're democratizing that vocabulary management now and allowing the experts, the people who actually, are using the vocabularies, not just, we don't just build the vocabularies, we actually use them ourselves in our databases. And that's what we want. But, I trained as an archaeologist. I did medieval buildings. That was my dissertation. My penchant is 20th century concrete pillboxes. That's what I'm about. By vocation, I'm a pedant. That's what I do now. I just make word lists and make sure the vocabularies are there, which means that I don't necessarily know everything there is to know about archaeological objects or architecture or all of these things that we have vocabularies for. So sometimes I have to rely on experts. And unlike Michael Gove, I think, we do need experts. And so let the experts come in, and I'll tut if they're doing it wrong, and I'll help them help them make those nice lists correctly. But ultimately, it cuts down on my workload. It means that we get the terminologies that they're happy to use because they know that they're right, because they're actually meaningful for their data set. And that's all we want, really, is to make sure that data sets are accessible. And all this gathering of information that we do, we need to make it available to people. And, Google boxes, okay, they're fine. But, back in the day, I remember when I first started using the internet, when I was taught at the House of Commons how to use Netscape. And, you went in and you typed in pillbox into your thing. Pillbox hats, pillboxes, boxes for pills. And you had to scroll down 3,000 pages to get to the first picture of a pillbox, a 20th century concrete pillbox. Now, if they'd used concepts, I'd have been able to go pillbox, brackets, defence, and I'd have got that image straight away. And I wouldn't have wasted taxpayers' money. 3 hours scrolling through 3,000 pages in the House of Parliament library. Anyway, so that's, vocabularies, they're very important, probably more important than you know. It's our time to shine. Thank you.